I'm seeing 7 o'clock and it looks like we
Yeah.
have enough for a quorum. So if you're ready, I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And Bruce, can you help with the roll call, please?
Yep. Ned Stachin, Andre Simons, Richard Berlandi,
Here.
David Fox,
Here.
Robert Eisner,
Here.
Neil Kelsey, Mark Simpson, George
Here.
Santos. Oh, Mark was there, right? Who just popped in here? Hold on.
Yes, he responded.
Okay. Well, I'll have Habitat Services.
Yeah, I'm here. It's Mark.
All right. Mark J. Tulin.
I'm here.
All right. Sir, just for the record, Ned Stachin and Neil Kelsey had called ahead of time that said they weren't going to make it. And we have Jay Tulin here, a new alternate member, so he'll need to be appointed a full member for this meeting.
Okay, Bruce, and since we have the commission, the chairman with an excused absence as vice chair, I'll run the meeting and I will
Perfect, thank you.
I'll seat Jay Tulin for Ned Stanchion.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Okay,
All right.
so I guess we're ready for item 1 under new business,
I
80
think
South Road.
Yep, I think we have everybody here. Let me move over to the
Yep.
application.
Yeah, and Bruce, it looks like Andre Simons just logged in.
Oh, did he? Let me just check in. Andre, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. We'll add you in. All right. All right. 80 South Road. Who's going to start the presentation?
Great. That'll be me.
Awesome.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Megan Raymond. I'm here representing the applicant 80 South Road LLC on for a drainage improvement adjacent to the rear south of Building A on an ongoing construction project out on South Road. We did meet 2 weeks ago. Also with me tonight, I should say, is the applicant himself. Jeff Sager is on, as well as the engineer. The engineer who's assisting the engineer of record, Kevin Sisko's here representing Bowler. So we did talk about the proposed work at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. And the work entails the installation of approximately 250 linear feet of a 12-inch pipe to the south, immediately south of Building A, which is the western building of the 2 apartment buildings that were approved in 2022. And the new work involves about 1,168 square feet of new work within the upland review. In total, the proposed work is about a little bit over double than that, but much of that is actually within the existing limit of disturbance that was previously approved with the construction back behind the building. And as we discussed at the last meeting, there are some drainage conditions that are presented out here just with the landscape position of the site sitting at the toe of the embankment to the I-84 connector. And that, in addition to some seasonally high groundwater, has resulted in, and obviously the ongoing construction out on the site's a perfect time to do these improvements, the design modification to the approved plan that would involve 2 yard drains, this length of pipe, and then an apron that exists or exits this pipe array just west of a drainage channel, an engineered drainage channel that carries flow to Patterson Park Pond below I-84. I think we did get into some detail at the last meeting, so I'm happy to continue or to answer some questions, but what we're here tonight before you is to seeking approval for this additional work that was not included in our original application, but drainage conditions revealed under construction do present this persistent condition given the landscape position of the site. Obviously, we'd like to allow for residential enjoyment of the property as proposed, and the conditions presently will certainly be improved once silt fence and vegetation is established, but we'd like to address this with the yard drain. So I'll pause and turn it back to Chairman Eisner, Acting Chairman Eisner for the evening to continue the conversation. Thanks.
Great, Megan, thank you for the recap, and I will go around and see if there are any questions from the commission. And Rich, I go alphabetically, so Commissioner Berlandi, any questions or comments?
No questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox, any questions or comments?
Just one. I know we discussed it last time. I'm assuming that there's going to be straw wattles or something similar in that 1 or 2 feet of space between the trench and the wetlands.
That's correct.
Area.
Yep,
Just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
that is correct. Yes, SN will be used. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Simons?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Commissioner Simpson?
Nothing to add. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'll be abstaining on this vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Tulin? Jay, any questions or comments? Okay, you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
I was muted, sorry. I know I asked this question before the meeting started. Do I get to vote on this matter? Because it's new business, even though I wasn't at the last meeting?
If you feel comfortable with the information, and you're familiar with the background, then you could. If you feel that you missed a substantial part of the information, not being present at the last meeting, then you could abstain. Right now, we're just doing questions and comments if you have any.
Okay, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Megan, I do have a question. Last meeting, I did ask if the outfall for the drainage system provided enough space to do routine maintenance if it's required. I know you said that it's primarily clean water, so there shouldn't be a lot of sediment. Was there any relook at the placement of the outfall and whether there was enough room for routine maintenance?
Yeah, we did bring that up at the last time, and certainly there's no change to the response to that question. And there is upland access available as well, as if we needed to cross that rill that's on the northern portion of the site. We don't need to cross over the wetland. So given just the nature of the water that's coming out there, again, we're not anticipating a lot of maintenance. A lot of maintenance here with the clean water, as well as it's a very low gradient. It's a low gradient system, so we're not anticipating, very strong velocities coming out of this pipe. It's really just kind of a conveyance, low level or low energy conveyance feature. And certainly if we needed to get back in there for maintenance, and we're working in an upland review that would require additional disturbance, we'd come back before you for that authorization.
Great, thank you, Megan. So for the commission last month, we determined significant as a non-significant regulated activity. We decided not to do a site walk because we were all pretty comfortable with the site and the plans. So at this point, unless there's additional questions or comments, it would be appropriate, based on the dialogue, for a motion to approve, and perhaps including a condition to ensure the soil and erosion control per the plans is utilized. So we'd need a motion and a second on that.
Just
So moved.
So moved.
Or second. Sorry.
So I think that was, I think it was made by Rich and seconded by Andre. Is that correct?
That works.
Fine.
If I had that wrong, we can reverse it. Sandy, do you have that?
Yep. Oh, we have that.
Okay, great. Okay, so then I will call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
Mark abstain.
Mark, can you say it a little louder? I didn't hear what you said.
I abstain. Thank you.
Okay, noting Mark Simpson abstains, the motion will carry. Thank you
Great.
all.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Take care.
So we'll move on to item 2 of new business, All Habitat Services LLC for 200 Garden Street.
All right, let me get that over to there. This is on the agenda, just so everyone's ahead of time. This was on the agenda. I was working with the applicant. I had a couple questions and concerns with the amount of disturbance, the method of how they were doing it. So I felt it needed to go in front of the commission for them to rule. So as you'll see in the agenda review, this is more or less just for the commission to understand and determine whether they feel this is a permitted non-regulated use or not. All right, I think we have Ellie here from All Habitat Services.
Yes, my name's Eli. So I
Eli,
do
sure.
have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure if you guys want me to. I
Now,
don't.
Eli,
Uh,
unfortunately, that's why I sent an email. If you get anything, send it to me ahead of time because we don't allow them to screen share. All right.
okay.
So,
Okay. So I'll just look at it on my screen and I can share it with you after if you guys want. It does have some nice photographs, but
okay.
Yeah, I would say that'd be great, Eli, if you can just, do the overview and then for the record, just send it to Bruce afterwards. That'd be great.
Sure. So, just to introduce myself, my name's Eli. I'm a licensed arborist and a program manager for All Habitat Services, and we focus and specialize in landscape restoration with a specialty of invasive plant control. And so, on this project site, there's about a third of an acre of Japanese knotweed, which is given by the name, and I'm sure as many of you are familiar with, is an invasive plant that comes from Asia. It has very harmful impacts on the ecosystem. It outcompetes a lot of native vegetation, which moves its way up the food chain. All of our native plants have co-evolved with insects, which feed our birds, which pollinate our plants. And so when you have Japanese knotweed, it ends up causing this detriment to the ecosystem. And so we had this client reach out to us, and then in my conversations with you guys about whether or not this would be permitted, we decided that we would talk about what our technique is. And so we do we have a combined herbicide and mechanical treatment approach. It's the industry standard. We follow some of the best practices from Penn State Extension that have researchers that have been looking at this. And we've, as a business, have been doing this for about 20 years. And so during the growing season, which runs between June and usually October, depends when the first frost starts to come, we do 2 herbicide treatments, foliar applications on the foliage of the plant that's coming up. Basically, we use an aquatic approved herbicide. We use an ultra low volume technique. We don't use water as a carrier. We use thin-vert emulsion, which is kind of like an oil-based carrier. So we put this ultra low volume technique and we spray targeted on the foliage. All of our field technicians are licensed. They all are able to differentiate between native and invasive. As discussed, Japanese knotweed is very aggressive, and it tends to form these dense monocultures where you don't, unfortunately, oftentimes see a lot of native plants growing interspersed just because of the rhizomic nature of the plant. It has very, very deep root systems. So we come in, we do this foliar treatment as it starts to probably reach several feet tall. And it sends up new shoots all throughout the growing season, which is why we come in twice, once June, July, another time August, September, October range to treat the remaining new shoots that have come up. Then during the dormant season, we do a mulch mow. And so when you go in, we break down all of that biomass. And so for the next year's growing season, when the new growth comes up, it's not going to be intercepted by the previous year's stalks because at that point it's not connected to the root system. And so so we do that kind of to minimize the use of herbicide to be most effective in our control technique. And it typically takes about 3 years to control and manage Japanese knotweed.
Thanks, Eli. And that concludes your presentation?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'll go around and ask if there are any questions. Commissioner Berlandy?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Fox?
I was wondering how close to the Aquatic River is the nearest treatment area?
Of the Japanese knotweed. So it's mapped in there. I'd have to see. I'd have to look exactly. I couldn't give you an exact answer offhand. Just to let you all know that the aquatic herbicide does permit you actually use this herbicide for plants growing in water. So we get this permitted from CT Deep dozens and dozens of times a year for plants that are growing in water. Not all herbicides have the aquatic label. This one does. But in this case, we're not actually treating any plants that are growing in the river. But if we were, it actually would be approved by the label.
Are these, is it growing under trees here, or is it just kind of its own species just right there and there's like nothing above it?
Yeah, it's not growing. It's not growing. There are other forested parts of the property, but it's not growing in a forest.
And after the several years of treatment, is it going to be lawn, or what's going to be the end state that you're trying to achieve?
I think the client has not yet figured out what the next steps are following the control of the Japanese knotweed.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Andre, any questions?
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Simpson?
No questions.
Okay. Commissioner Tulin?
I may be overthinking this, which is something that I typically do, and you'll forgive me, I haven't completely rewrapped my head around the regs. But I thought at the very beginning, it might have been Bruce said something about the amount of disturbance. I'm wondering if, because if it's a significant amount of disturbance, is this something we want to go take a look at, or am I overthinking that? That's a thought / question.
Yeah, I think Jay may be overthinking it because the first question we'll have to decide on is whether this is a use as of right or an exempt activity, or if it is regulated to the point where we want an application. So if we determine it's use as of right, then we're not even going to take an application in. If we do take an application in, then we can answer that question as to whether we think a site walk is appropriate.
Thank you. You reminded me of something that I should have remembered from a couple of years ago. I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's good. All questions are good. Okay, and the one question I have, Eli, is so your request is for the 3-year treatment cycle. So you would treat in 24, 25, and 26.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And just this is a residential only property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So for the commission, I think we have to decide whether, this is a residentially exempt activity. It's a use as of right, which I think it would be. It's not an excessive area of treatment. It's an area consistent with residential property. I think Eli, an expert in the fields, identified for us the problem with Japanese knotweed, and I think we've all seen firsthand with the knotweed and other invasive plants. So I'm thinking it's better in the long run to treat and control the area. I also think that the use of the mechanical along with the ultra low deployment is appropriate, particularly to address the issue that Commissioner Fox raised about potential impact to the river. So I would lean towards, and I leave this open for discussion by the commission, but I would lean towards, a use as of right residential property, no application required.
Chair, do you mind if I ask a question?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Eli, question. So can you just give me a little more information? As I think I mentioned to you in the past, we've always been told here to effectively get rid of knotweed, you're supposed to be cutting it and removing it off site. Can you just give me a little more information of, I guess, once you spray it, what happens and how you're able to mulch it in place without it generating again?
Yes, so that's a very good question. Thank you for asking, because I would like to educate and enlighten. So during the growing season, if you were to, while the plant is actively growing, if you were to mulch it and leave those cut pieces of vegetation, stalks, nodes right in place, yes, there is a risk that during the growing season, those can, if they're not removed, they can recolonize that site. Those root fragments can reroot and send up more shoots. During the dormant season, when we come and do the mowing, This usually happens, well, it exclusively happens in the dormant season when there's plants are in their dormancy. So imagine December, imagine January. In the past, we've had a little more snow and ice than we have more recently, but even so, the ground is too cold. The plants are there. There's no ongoing photosynthetic activity that's happening within the plants, and so by the next growing season, it's basically dried out. It's those stalks are no longer viable and active. So if you are doing it during the mowing during the growing season, yes, you would basically want to cut close to the base, and then you could either solarize all of those stalks on a tarp, and then bag it and trash it and dispose it to make sure that it doesn't send out new shoots. There are some other practitioners out there who will say there's a technique that is discussed by others around that say if you do a 3-cut technique, if you cut it 3 times for 3 years, that will eradicate Japanese knotweed. Unfortunately, in our experience, I haven't actually seen a whole lot of success with that. I was just actually at a site visit last week where they've been trying that for 10 years. And the Japanese knotweed is robust and healthy, and it doesn't look like it's really stunted the growth of that plant so much. So I'm not questioning that other people may have had some success with that technique. I think it's certainly much more appropriate on really small sites before the plant has the root system. It can grow 10 to 20 feet deep once the plant is more mature. But when it's in more of its youth or its infancy, doing that cutting technique, certainly I would try that if it were on my property, because I don't like herbicides. It's just once the stand has been there long enough, unfortunately, it's just not really as effective a technique. And so that's why we go. And so to answer the other part of your question, so what happens? So we spray the herbicide onto the foliage. It gets into the plant tissue. It's translocated down into the root system. It stops the metabolic process. So that plant basically freezes, if you will. It won't grow anymore. It's not going to flower, which means it's not going to seed. It's not going to continue to disperse itself with more viable opportunities for propagation. And that plant material will basically just stay there and remain frozen. And then come winter, it will slowly dry out. It will yellow, and it will wither. And so if you don't do anything, those stalks are just going to stay there browned in the winter. And then next year, there's going to be some regrowth that comes. It's going to be a reduced amount. We typically see between 50 to 70% less the second year. But if you don't mow it, the new shoots are going to grow up alongside, right next to last year's stunted shoots that we had treated. And if you were to go in and do a foliar application, if any of that herbicide hits the previous year's stalk, that's not going to get into the underground root system. It's basic. It's like hair or something. It's no longer really actively connected to the underground energy source, which is where the plant keeps its reserves, and really where the strength and the meat of the plant is.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting. As interesting could be, right? But thank you for that.
So Bruce, it's a great question. And in some of the other applications in the past, I've asked when there's, claimants being disposed off-site, oftentimes the applicant doesn't know where it's going off-site. So you run the risk of also transferring the problem elsewhere, particularly if it goes to a compost pile somewhere versus, one of the trash to energy plants.
Right. So Eli, if you don't mind just give me a heads up when you do it. It'd be interesting if I could stop down and just at least document it. So I think the commission can stay in tune of it, and we can know for future projects.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we need to sort of go around and check to see if everyone believes it's an exempt activity or if we should take in an application as a regulated activity. So I'll go through the list again. Commissioner Berlandy?
Yeah, I would feel that it's more of a maintenance activity with definitely a positive benefit to to the environment. So yeah, I would not be in favor of requesting an application.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons?
I also agree with that.
Okay. Commissioner Simpson?
I agree with everyone. Thank you.
Commissioner Tulin?
I'll go along with that as well, and I'll do a little bit more studying before the next meeting.
Okay, Bruce, now I have a question for you. Do we need a vote on this, or is it the fact that we agree is sufficient to not cause an application?
I think I'd like to have a vote, so we all, so it's a consensus.
All
You
right, then
know,
I would entertain a motion that this is a use as of right exempt activity.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Dave, a second.
Made by Rich, seconded by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Oh, opposed? Abstained? Okay. Eli, thank you and good luck with the projects.
Thank you. I'll see
Eli.
you.
That's
All right, Bruce, so I guess we'll move to you for an update on item 3, the cease and desist for 1509 Farmington Ave.
still no update at this point, still has not paid the payment. So we're gonna push it through our hearing process. So I just have to get a letter out to him next. So
Okay, and for the hearing, do you handle that at the staff level or do we have counsel there as well?
no, it's just staff level. It's just a
Okay.
staff level. What we have is a blight, or not blight, we have a hearing officer. They hear both sides. If he decides to attend, or if he decides to appeal, that's when we have the hearing. So if he gives his case, I give my case, and then the hearing officer decides how to go forward. So they'll either vote in our favor or his favor, or try to mediate something in between.
Okay, then at the direction of the commissioner, please continue with the
Mhm.
enforcement.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
I only have one thing under planners report. I don't have it on there, but I wanted to give everyone a quick update, if you don't mind.
please do.
504 Main Street. I was out there. Took some pictures. We met with them a few times. They moved some of the plants around. So for those that don't remember, this is 504 Main Street down by the Plainville line. Why can't I move this here? It doesn't like me. It doesn't like. Can't move this screen out of here. There we go. This thing is lovely, I tell you. More problems. Here we go. So 504 Main Street's down by the Plainville town line, the one we had worked with the cease and desist. So since that, he has been out there. He put the trees or the plants out there. We had to move things around a little bit. So he weed whacked the area. So he did do he did do the plantings. This was as of late last week. So you can see the plants here. All right. He had weed whacked the area. And I told him that he has to keep the area weed whacked just so the grass doesn't overtake the plants. So this is all the plantings that were installed. He does have a hose, and you don't see it in any of the pictures. He does have a hose from the building, and he has been keeping them watered. So hopefully this little heat spell we have is he's able to keep them watered through there, and they actually survive. But just want to give everyone a heads up on that. All right.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, so we can move on to approval of the minutes for June 5th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Rich. Is there a second?
Dave, a second.
Thank you, Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
I'm pretty sure I need to
Abstain, Mark.
abstain since I wasn't on the commission then, so I'll say abstain.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
And Mark here, I'll abstain since I didn't attend the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And that will put a wrap on the wetland agenda. So we will adjourn at 7:29 and concurrently open the Conservation Commission at 7:29. And for the record, I will continue as chair in the excused absence of Chairman Stachin, and we will note the same role.
All right, so for the committee, I'll be doing the presentation on this one. This is part of, let me zoom out. This is for the Banbury Crescent. This is a referral to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission. Let me jump out and give everyone a little bit of a for some, I know that Jay has not been involved, so let's. This computer's getting slow. There we go. All right, so I think many of you were not here when Bridgehampton was first developed or first approved. So at that point, Wetlands was with a TPZ, so it was the Inland Wetlands Agency, and the Conservation Commission was this group here, and they acted as a referral to planning and zoning. So Bridgehampton Crossing is a relatively large subdivision. There was lots of work and care with regards to the wetlands that were out there. So it was a pretty large, it was a cluster subdivision to keep the lot smaller and large amounts of open space. All right, so presently these areas here are Town of Farmington open space here and here and down in here as well. All right, the town recently has moved to pursue purchasing this section of the Glen Hollow, which is at the end of Glen Hollow. It's an extension, so it's another large area of open space that will be gaining out of that. So as part of the purchase of this, the developer has requested for us to re-examine this lot here. All right, this is the lot 9257 Banbury Crescent. Back in the day, there was a house shown on it. It kind of worked, but now when you're looking at the subdivision and what's available for a yard, it's really not a workable piece of property. All right, because the way that house is going to be set, it's really not going to have any backyard. With all the setbacks, it's going to be right up against this back line. And then you've got this odd stretch in here. So what the developer is requesting is this here. So here's the lot. The red line is the existing property line. It goes behind this blue line here, but comes up through here, comes around and encompasses this whole area here. The green is an area that he proposes to donate to the Town of Farmington as open space. There's an existing drainage easement through here that was for this house over here. There was during the initial approval, it was thought they were going to need a footing drain, a positive drainage footing drain, so they were going to cut across. Since that time, when they built the house, it was all sand. They were able to get an exemption from this building code to just use a sump pump. So they have a sump pump now. It's all sand, and water is not really a concern. So that's going to remain, unfortunately. I think we're going to leave that because it's in favor of this lot. So we need to go back to this property owner. So to keep it clean, we just left it. We're going to leave that in. The yellow is an area that they're going to propose to that the developer is requesting we deed to him. So if we look on here, we're looking at deeding over 41. We're giving him 4157 square feet of open space, and he's going to be giving us 4751 square feet of open space. So it's relatively a close swap. Okay. So it's in the plus for us because we'll be getting more 751 versus the 157 here. So another 500, 600 square feet. All right. Some little, let me zoom out. Let me get some little things to also note. The blue line is the upland review area. Okay. There's a wetland down in here. So there's a 150-foot wetland upland review. That was not in place at the time of this subdivision. The 150-foot setback came in after this subdivision. So just to give everybody a little bit of background. Okay. The intention, I think, at the time when this was approved was to locate this property line near the top of the embankment. Okay, and that's this 258 contour. The contours, because it was such a large subdivision, the areas that they did not develop were not field topo, they were just used aerial topo. So the aerial topo is based on what we did is off somewhat. What we had them do is go out there and locate this blue line. So here's the proposed property line, the blue line right through here. So we had him go out there and then stake it in like every 25, 20 intervals, something like that. Shannon and I had gone out. We walked it. We actually took physical measurements from each spot to the top of bank, and that's what this the magenta line is. So as you can see, the top of bank moves a little differently. Okay, so the intention here, so what more or less what they're planning to do is take this property line that was here and move it to the top of bank. Okay, and include a 5-foot conservation easement, which is this hatched area right here off the back of it. Proposal is to put a split rail fence. Presently, all we have is the blue medallions that we put on the trees. To actually strengthen this up, the developer has agreed to putting a split rail fence all along this conservation easement. So therefore, that's more of a barrier to keep out and do not move, or do not go past go. So as part of the approval, the developer had written a letter to the town manager requesting the town council review this. Council reviewed it last Tuesday at their meeting, has since approved and not approved the sale, but approved the request, and are asking the Planning and Zoning Commission to make a referral under the 8-24 state statute. So as part of that, since it deals with wetlands and it is a separate commission at this point, we're kicking it back out to the Conservation Commission as it does deal with open space. So for the Conservation Commission to review it and then to issue a referral back to Planning and Zoning. The intention is for Planning and Zoning to take this on at their agenda next Monday and vote on it. So if we can get some kind of referral back to them, they'll review it, approve it, or deny it, depending on however they want to go, and then that'll get sent back to town council. Town council takes all of this in and makes a decision. So I think that's everything. I mean, this area here, just to give everyone a heads up, as I said, this was the top of bank. It's this area comes up through here, so it's kind of flat in here, and it rolls back over. So this area is relatively flat, but it's a very steep incline. Can I do this? Yeah. There we go. But it's a really steep slope from here down into the wells. So like I said, I think right where they've shown it, what we have walked in the measurements we've taken, I think it's a very comparable plan. This is not a very usable piece of property. I mean, sorry, let's not say that. There's a flat area here. It is usable, but technically someone can go in here and clear this out, put a shed back there, put a fort for their kids. There's lots of things they can do back here. So I think it does protect this large area and this area that slopes down. So it does, which goes right in to the wetlands. So what you're seeing here in this box here with the yellow is more or less the flat plateau of the lot. So I think it's a very decent and a win-win for us, I think, in terms of managing and protecting the downstream wetlands.
Thanks, Rich. That's a very helpful overview, and I would agree. I think it's sort of a win-win. It's a good sort of a common sense approach. The lot, as it was originally approved, is so oddly configured. It's going to force a house that may not be in character with the rest of the neighborhood. But of more concern, if the house doesn't have a reasonable usable yard, I think we run the risk of having whoever builds on that property encroaching into the open space area anyway. So the land swap makes sense. The town is actually getting, the 600 or so additional square feet. So I think it would be appropriate to do a referral with the conditions discussed on the fence and the other things. So I think it's a good referral for this commission to make. I'll go around and see if there's any other thoughts or comments. Berlandy?
Yeah, I would agree. It's probably going to save us a lot of headaches in the future with people trying to encroach on an area. And then I would be in favor of a positive referral back to the planning and zoning.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I particularly like the fence that's being proposed to really demarcate.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner.
Developing. I was just wondering, there is going to be a little bit within 150 foot. You're going to have, I assume, come to us for a permit if they want to bring the house up that area.
Dave, you broke up a little bit. Bruce, were you able to hear that?
No, I didn't. It was in and out, Dave.
Okay, I was just wondering, you mentioned that the 150-foot setback area is within the parcel now. If they're going to be building within that area, they would come to us for a permit, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they would have
Or
to.
is that as a previously approved parcel? They don't have
It does show it does show construction on the house. It does show a house. It was approved as part of a prior subdivision. The lot did change. I mean, as I said, with the 10-foot, with that 10 easement in here, I mean, it's really not much more clearing. I mean, the house is still going to be in this location. Roof infiltrators are going into it. All the roofs will be infiltrating into the into an underground infiltration system. So I think everything is for the positive. I'll leave that up to the commission at this point if they feel, maybe make that as part of the referral. But if they feel that they want them to come back, we can do that at that point.
I was wondering legally if it's already an approved site.
It is. I mean, the way I've always read it and the way I've, recently read it too, was that, you don't need to make a permit for a portion of a subdivision that has already been approved. Okay.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, this has been approved
That's the way
here.
it is. That's fine.
Well, yeah, well, the red line has been approved. So everything in here has been approved. So I guess could the argument be if we go beyond that line, do you guys want to see that? I'll leave that up to you.
Dave, I think that's a great point. I think that could be a recommendation. We can't impose the condition because we're just making a referral and recommendation, but our referral could include a recommendation that the house not be built within the 150-foot regulated area. Are you good on your questions and comments?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Simmons?
I have no questions or comments at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Simpson?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it because if they do not build within 150 feet, we never see this. But we will never get an application that we have to approve. So I'm comfortable that if we make that statement, they can keep out of the 150-foot range, then that'd be great. I don't want to give them more land so they can inch the property over into the wetland upland review area. So I think we're going to be generous to make this proposal and agree to it, but at the same time, we don't want them to build closer to what we don't prefer people to do. That's all.
Great, thanks, Mark. Yeah, you know, and if they push the house back into a lot too far, then we're gonna run the risk that they're gonna encroach for a little backyard into the open space. Okay, Commissioner Tulin, any questions or comments?
Comment, and I again may be overthinking in my newness back on the commission. I just want to make sure I understand, is our referral back to TPZ just the green space that Bruce showed us, the open space, and that's it?
No, and it's the swap. It's the whole thing. They're giving this, we're giving this. So it's the whole swap.
So it encompasses the whole thing, and it just so happens that part of the swap includes open space that the town will use for whatever purpose they want.
Yeah,
Am I
I
getting-
mean, yeah, this lot line would go away and it would match in with the open space all to here. So, yes.
Yeah, we're reconfiguring and adding the open space.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Otherwise, this sounds fine. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So with that said, I think a motion to make a positive referral for the land swap, including the conditions discussed, which also includes the no building within the 150-foot regulated area could be appropriate.
All right, do you mind if I just back up and just take that? So we want no house itself, no structure of the main house. How about that? The main house?
Yes, that's what I meant to say.
So no house.
Are
Well,
we
and
also,
if they want to do
we
a
talking
shed,
shed
come back,
too?
guys. Sorry,
Yeah, I think a shed,
sorry, it's
a
Mark.
playscape, any of the ancillary things that happen with their residents is fine. That we would normally allow that in the regulated area.
Okay,
so no
all
main
right,
house
thank you.
in that area. Anything else, or was that it?
That was my suggestion, so we just need a motion. I guess I'll say, is there a motion for the
This is
positive
Rich.
referral with conditions? Great, thank
This
you,
is
Rich.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Andre. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the recommendation for the positive referral is made.
Perfect.
That brings us down, Bruce, I lost my agenda,
Agenda.
so we probably just have your report in minutes, right?
Yep. There's no plan, or is anyone attended any of those land acquisition committees? Anything like that? Anything to update or anything? Okay. Then I'm done. The minutes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the June 5th minutes?
So moved by Dave.
So, oh, no, I can't.
So Dave, Mark, is the motion second?
Well, Dave, I can't prove it.
It's Rich, I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Jay, I believe I need to abstain as well since I wasn't on the commission then.
Okay, thank you. So the motion carries. And Bruce, looking at the calendar, what happens in July? What's our meeting schedule? Are we on for the 3rd?
Presently we are. I don't have any, let's see, July, no, 10th I got the 10th, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at the calendar. I'm thinking, okay,
10th and the 24th. I don't,
Good.
we've cleared our slate, so we don't have any at this time. So unless somebody comes in afterwards, wanting a permit, I can check in with the chair the week before if we don't have any applications and just confirm how he wants to go ahead, and if so, we can cancel the meeting if we don't get anything.
okay. Thank you, Bruce.
All right.
So I will wish everyone a happy 4th of July, and we will adjourn the meeting at 7:49.